Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Respecting the Beer. This week, we're continuing our conversation with the Randy Mosher, author of a book you probably know, Tasting Beer, An Insider's Guide to the World's Greatest Drink, and an author of a book you will soon love, Your Tasting Brain, coming out May 15th, 2026. Now let's jump back into that conversation.
I mean, beer is also has to be fresher. You know, you're not going to pull out a 1948 bottle of Budweiser and sell it at a premium. It's probably going to be awful.
But I mean, I've had old beer. I've had beer from the 1950s and the 1930s and stuff. There's a guy in Alaska associated with the brewers up there. He's a he's a pilot that works for the FAA, I think. But he collects antique beers, and up there at that beer and barley wine festival in Anchorage every year, he does, I don't know if he's still doing it, but he was doing an antique beer tasting. It's pretty cool. But you're right, beer, I mean, and that's why you can't, like, you couldn't do that guessing game with beer, because beer, like New Belgium had their panelists trained to recognize the difference between fat tire packaged that day and fat tire that was a week old. Like, that's how dramatic it is. And that's why so much of the stuff online on the beer ratings, people are trading that stuff, shipping it around in the mail, and God knows how old it is. And they're, even if they were perfect tasters, that's pretty unreliable results,
I will check in on Untapped for two reasons. One is for a good laugh, because there's some really great comments on there. And then two is I am seeking out, is there something going on with our beer? It's a nice way to do that.
Yeah, but, I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying it's not.
What's funny though is
it's not dispassionate.
I'll see someone rating a beer from 3 years ago. We haven't brewed that in 3 years. I cannot imagine why that's happening.
Well, I don't know, because they found it on the shelf in some liquor store somewhere.
Or they've traded it, and whatever it is, they think that old is better. Anyways, there's some crossover with wine that doesn't seem to translate so well to the beer world and vice versa.
We've mentioned this on the show. A couple times we've had people that went to California and they brought back Pliny the Elder and Blind Pig.
Sure.
And we've done a blind test with 547, which is the West Coast IPA they brew here. Mm-hmm. And almost every time 547 wins. But it's always hard to say if that's because it's better or it's because this is being transported warm from California and there's been something in the process. It's hard to say.
You're speaking to the anxiety of sending beers to competition. This is it, right?
Well, at least everyone's
absolutely. That's an issue.
It's at least everyone's sending it. Mm-hmm, whereas,
it's true.
We're getting your beer here fresh, or at least fresher.
Yeah.
But reputation, brand and reputation counts for an awful lot. And if you think all sitting, like all of us here in this little group, we think we're above that, but that's not how our brains work. Right. That's why we blind taste stuff. Right. Because we're incapable of ignoring that cognitive information. It overlays on top. That's part of the really the main thing we try and do as tasters is just tell our brain to stop helping us. Don't put this stuff together. Don't tell us anything. Just let me taste as a taste and smell as a smell and a mouthfeel as a mouthfeel. But no, the brain's got to put them together. And then it throws all this cognitive stuff on top. It's just, it's tough. I mean, you really have to learn to retrain your brain in some ways to get to extract information out of the tasting process, because that's what we're after.
How does someone go about developing their palate?
First of all, you got to just be curious and pay attention, right? And that is a thing that is, some people are just more naturally inclined to that. I've got a lot of friends that say, "Oh, I'm just a terrible taster." And it's like, well, yeah, but how much effort do you put into it? I mean, it's like oh, I'm a terrible baseball player, but I don't play baseball, right? Or whatever it is. It's like, just like anything else, you've got to put some effort into it and learn yourself, learn how you identify flavor. And, what as the wine writer Jancis Robertson said, if a wine reminds you of fresh tennis balls, just go with that, right? And later on, you can learn the term that the industry uses. And so there's a lot of things that, like acetaldehyde is a flavor, a chemical that's often characterized as smelling like green apples. But it's also like whole bunch of different things. And so for me, I had this idea in my head about looking for the green apples. And I was looking for the Jolly Rancher candies, right? And years went by judging homebrew. I never found acetaldehyde. And then one day I got a picture in my mind of the bottom of a lawnmower that had run over some rotting apples and wet grass. And it's like, that must be acetaldehyde. And some people say it's pumpkin guts. Some people say it's latex paint. Some people say it's flower shop. It is actually drunk breath because it's the chemical that yeast makes in order to turn it into alcohol. And when our bodies detoxify alcohol, it turns alcohol into acetaldehyde, and then the liver breaks that down. So you have to just be open and start to build up your internal vocabulary. And that's why judging homebrew and commercial competitions is so great, because you sit at a table with people that have different experiences and different strengths and weaknesses, and you kind of calibrate yourself and you learn the professional terminology, so you don't want to go and read my book and then, like, somebody gave me a bad review on Amazon because they said, well, I read the book and then I wasn't any better a taster than I was before. It's like, well, that's not how it works, buddy. That's just not how it works. You can't.
Reading how to fly a plane doesn't.
Well, yeah. I mean, you need to read, but it's like you can't. There's no substitute for just doing it, and
right.
It's all internal. It's internal work. It's meditative work. That's why I've said it's like self-awareness. It really is. If you pursue it right, you'll learn a lot about yourself, and you'll be more in tune with the reality that surrounds you all the time. I think that's it's bringing me back.
I used to be organized. I organized homebrew competitions, was involved in judging. It's taking me back to those days.
Yeah. That was so much fun, back in the beginning. It was, had my little notebook and had that little Michael Jackson pocketbook. We went to England and Belgium, and we got into all the best beer places with this little skinny book, and I'm taking notes. It's like, man, fresh, just a whole new world,
Carrie, what would you do if you sat down at a table with Randy as a judge? I mean, you're going to be able to learn stuff.
Oh my gosh, for sure.
I mean, that's true, right? When you sit down at a table, there's one seasoned or more judges, and then you got new people you're trying to bring on board.
Yeah, they try and generally pair the more experience with the less. You're trying to bring people up, but people. It's like it's not just like that I'm always better than the person next to me. Like, even a beginner is like, notice something maybe I didn't notice, So we all learn from each other, and you learn like what are you not sensitive to? And maybe you learn like diacetyl smells like butter in a lager, but in a dark beer it smells like cake. So I mean, that's my little tell on diacetyl. If I'm in a dark beer, if my brain goes to pastry, it's like, oh, brownies or cake or cookies or something. It's like, wait, that's my tell for diacetyl. Go back in again and smell for diacetyl particularly. And it's like, yep, that's it. But, there's a lot of these little tricks, right, that you just learn over time. And you learn if you've got a blindness, if you're blind to diacetyl, if you're, or maybe a little bit heightened taster for something else, because that happens too.
I was going to kind of say to that, I think a lot of times taste can be subjective too with different people. Like what you are picking up, I might get something completely different. And that's for me, that's one of the fun things of tasting beer with other people is, what are you getting? Oh, I didn't get that. Let me try that again. Yeah. And maybe I can find it, but maybe I can't.
Yeah. But like I said, these things that we turn our sensory responses into in the brain, right? So all that chemical pattern does not enter the brain. Everything that we know about a smell is completely fabricated. So whatever your receptors are to smell a peach, and yours and yours and yours and mine, they're all a little different because we all have some, different amounts of different receptors. And so, but we all tag the same, each internal representation, we tag it as a peach. That's how we can have a shared gastronomy. That's what we share is our tags. It's almost like literary in a way, it's very much the next, it's conceptual. It's not chemical.
This is that philosophical conversation about what is yellow when you're sitting in front of someone else and you look at the same thing and you agree that that's yellow, who knows what it really looks like in our minds? It's not.
Yeah.
It projects in a certain way for each of us.
Yeah, I mean, the visual system is way simpler than the olfactory system.
Fair.
Our senses, our olfactory, we have the largest single piece of the human genome does smell.
Well, that kind of brings me to that ratatouille moment. I guess we already kind of covered that. But when you're looking at trying to tease out a certain flavor, you might add two things together. Where you're combining light, you're not getting that's pretty linear, right? But when you're trying to create a different flavor, you can't predict with the outcome until you try those infinite combinations, right? When you're,
I mean, you have hunches, you have feelings. You know, that's the chef thing. You taste, you stick your finger in the soup, and it's like needs more salt. Okay, that's pretty basic, but it needs a little something. And where do you go? And I mean, for your blueberries, you went to cardamom, and cardamom's kind of a little terpene bomb. Right, so cardamom has a lot of the same chemicals in it that hops have in it. It's got piney things, resiny, green, kind of resiny, green, spicy, little bit of citrusy, a lot of, like nutmegs like that too. So those are like you said. You said like the blueberries just needed a lift, right? They were kind of flat. They needed something a little bright,
a little more.
Well, and the perfumers talk about 3 layers of aroma. There's the base notes, the middle notes, and the top notes. And the base notes are the ones that sort of sustain and hold everything together. Those are generally compounds that have lower boiling points, that evaporate more slowly. So they stay, like with perfume, they stay on your skin longer. And then with the middle, then the top notes are like bright, citrusy things. They're very volatile. They go away. And then there's the ones in the middle that are sort of in between. So it's good practice, I think, to think about that, especially if you're going into malt-flavored beers and things like that, where you really want to create some depth of the experience, and you can use, you might put black pepper as something that might be a middle note, with like blueberry and black pepper, because it's got terpenes, it's got that little bit of kick of spiciness, but it also has some deep flavors that might sort of carry you on. I mean, I don't know. It's like you just need strategies for thinking about how to put stuff together, and then just try a bunch of things.
I mean, sometimes I go in with a plan, and other times it's what happens if I do this, and let's throw this in there, and that ruined it. All right, let's go back to this part and see where we can go from there.
I do a lot of work with tinctures, like for with that cardamom. I'll take like a gram of cardamom and 10 grams of vodka and mix them together, let them sit overnight, run it through a coffee filter. Now you got something, if you've got a pipette or a syringe or something, now you know exactly how much of that cardamom you put in 100 mils of beer, right? And so now you have calibrated thing, and you can make up 10 of those, and you can say, well, is cinnamon, like a little touch of clove, is that a good base note? And then the cardamom's up on top, and maybe something in the middle, and you can do that pretty easily, and you can sit around a table, and in an hour or two you can do a huge amount of work. You don't have to brew the beer and try it. Then you just you sort of do the math, and whatever amount of herb we come up with that we've done that way, we usually double it if we're doing it in the whirlpool. We just like do the math, figure out, okay, that'd be 30 grams of whatever according to the math that we did with the tinctures, but then it's like, if we're going to do it, it's like just double it to 60.
I'm pretty sure when I get to in those really good sessions of getting to play with those flavors and add a little bit here, a little bit there, pretty sure I use every beaker we have in this whole brewery for those. So
Right.
I like how the industry is moving away from you have to hit the hole in one, right? If you're a home brewer, it seemed as though 25, 30 years ago, you had to have the recipe right, the process right. You throw it in the fermenter and you don't touch it. You bottle it, and then it's got to be perfect. And then it was seen as less romantic if you were to be involved in the process downstream. Nowadays, we've evolved into an industry where we're pulling out the driver, the iron, the putter to getting it into the hole. And I think that's actually a good thing. It's allowing us to explore flavors without having to rebrew it every time, trying to nail all its parameters upstream without adjustment post. I don't know what your feelings are on that, but there's so many products out there.
That gets a tradition, I guess.
Yeah.
And tradition is sort of like it's sort of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it's nice that we have traditional things, and it's nice that we have people that just want to make traditional lagers, for example. I think those are really cool. I enjoy drinking them, and I think I do admire people who just can do one thing and do it really well. I guess there's a guy in Japan that only makes Neapolitan style pizza, and he only makes two kinds, and he's like the most famous pizza guy in the world right now, because that is the thing in Japan, is like they really value people who just play by the rules and just finesse the hell out of stuff.
And it takes 40,000 hours to be a master or something to that effect in Japan in so many different trades.
Yeah, and they've studied that. They've studied that across a lot of different things, and there's a certain amount of hours and years that it just takes to master anything, whether it's brewing or winemaking or anything really.
Right.
So you can learn all that stuff, but on the other hand, I'm an artist by trade and a writer, and I like creativity and I like wacky things. And I wrote Radical Brewing just to help people with the creative aspect of brewing, to give them ideas and give them permission, really, to just do whatever the hell they want to. That you don't like tradition is fine if you want to do tradition, great. That's a valued part of the community, and we certainly rely on thousands of years of tradition in German beers and other beers that are the backbone of what we do. But we don't need to feel like that we have to have the right Heizgebot and do what the Germans do, because it's like doesn't make sense for us Americans.
I'm certainly conflicted internally. I'm both those people at once. One day I'll put on that hat, and then the next day we're throwing terpenes from abstracts into hop water.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, are you playing? What's your thoughts on the terpene world and how that's changing the industry for the non-alc side?
I think it's really fascinating. I mean, I don't like terpenes are wonderful. I haven't like non-alcoholic. I haven't really engaged in that at all. Non-alcoholic beer is really challenging in terms of its flavor. And the reason is that the alcohol is missing. And it's not that alcohol has a flavor, but alcohol changes the solubility of especially esters. And actually these things called Strecker aldehydes that are like maltol, that they're these really worty, malty, smells like brew day things that a lot of the non-alcoholic beer has that wordiness, and there's no way to really remove that. And it's like they mask it, they cover it up, they try and minimize it, whatever. It's just a thing that exists because of they call it flavor release. That means that certain chemicals are kept in the liquid because they're oil soluble or alcohol soluble, but they are not very soluble in water. So in beer at low alcohol concentration, esters jump out. But if you raise the alcohol, but these Strecker aldehydes, they're just not that pleasant when they're strong. That's a really complicated flavor game to play, and it's technologically out of my league. So,
my wife Allison's a physical chemist, and this is her field, the polarity and the solubility and all these things.
Yeah.
That's her jam.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
Mm-hmm. All right, Carrie, you got any more? We need to have a home brew day up here. Big Brew Day is like the first Saturday of May every day. We need to find our way. We need to find our way to wherever you are at that time, because I want to be over that brew kettle when it happens.
Yeah, I had all my my famous buck a pound brewery here in my basement, and I took it all over to Five Rabbit when we started that up, and we were using that to do pilot stuff. And
we didn't even talk about your professional brewing endeavors. You're part owner of
Forbidden Root is the one that's active right now. So we have two locations in Chicago. One is not too far from the water tower, just west out in the neighborhoods from downtown, and then we have another one up in the Ravenswood Corridor, which is kind of, they call it Brewery Row in Chicago right now. Dovetail's up there, Spikeful, a couple others. So, but yeah, we do botanical brewing, but we try and be careful how we talk about it. We actually took it off the 6-packs and the packaging because we didn't like, people couldn't wrap their heads around it. I mean, this was 10 years ago when we started up. So, but we do love the hazy IPAs. So we do a bunch of those, but we have a strawberry basil Hefeweizen. That's our leading beer out in the market. And we've just done, we make what we call a purple pills that has iris root in it, iris root, jasmine, and chamomile. You know, so we're trying to use botanicals to create sort of weird hoppy flavors that we wouldn't be able to do with hops alone.
Damn it! I was just in Chicago this weekend. I'm turning 50, and I took my daughter down to see the museum. She's 7, so yeah. Give me a couple more years. We'll get down there and see all.
Let me know. Let me know if any of you guys are in town. I'd love to buy you a beer. Sure,
love
what
it.
We're doing so.
Absolutely.
Field trip.
I was going to say, I just heard field trip.
I feel like it was a field trip in our future.
That, there's like they're peeling out in the parking lot.
Yeah. Well, you know, Chicago's such a big food town.
Yeah.
And the brewing community is pretty large here. I mean, I think we have probably 250 breweries or more in the metro area.
Yeah.
But so that means you can't just be like the brew pubs used to be 20 years ago. Well, we got a pale ale on the porter and a brown, and you know, it's like you have to be something.
Yeah.
You know, so we're botanical. We've got culinary breweries.
Well, and that
you know.
That cuts two ways. When you're in a smaller town, you kind of got to be everything to everyone.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I think that there's good in both. There's challenges in both of those industries.
Yeah, no question. Yeah.
All right.
So we have a question that we often ask guests.
Yeah.
You've tasted many, many beers in your life.
Yep.
If you're on death row, you're about to be executed, and you're given
turn
for a crime you didn't commit, of course.
Naturally.
But you're still going to be executed.
Yeah. And you get to order a flight of beer from any place in the world. What is going to be on your flight?
Oh, I don't know. It's really hard it's impossible to answer because it's like, I don't know how I'm going to be feeling at that point. But, you know, it would probably be something Trappist. You know, I think those are pretty hard to turn down. Rochefort, maybe.
We just had Vinny on here when his is Orval. That's his.
Orval popped to mind, but that's not a flight. You know, I mean, that is one of the more amazing beers on the planet. We've got a beer store down here. One of the homebrewers opened up, and he was telling me somebody came in and said, "Yeah, I'm looking for a beer. I'm looking for a saison, maybe something with some bread in it or something that's like really dry and kind of aperitif like." And Chris said, "Oh, you want Orval?" He goes, "No, I've had that."
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You know,
I know.
come on.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so that's one, right? Are we doing 4? Or are we gonna just say,
I don't know. It's a flight from one brewery or a flight from 4.
From whatever you want.
Yeah.
Whatever you want.
You're defining
This
this.
is the last flight.
One's got to be a wit beer. Wit beer.
Yeah.
Celis was alive. Those wit beers he was brewing were absolutely beyond.
We almost bought his cool ship, and I still know where it is.
Is that right?
Yeah. It actually
that was in Michigan Brewing Company, wasn't it?
No, you're talking about Pierre Sales, right?
Yeah, they bought a bunch of his stuff. They bought the brands at one point.
Oh, okay.
I think Christina, his daughter, owns them.
Yeah.
Now, again.
Yeah.
She may have bought all that stuff back from
Okay. Yeah.
Brewing.
So we're just to put in context, we have a 10 hectoliter system, and she tried to sell me. I want to say it was 100 hectoliter brew kettle. Like, come on, we're good.
You could do make it a spa or something.
Yeah. Right.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, he was the master at that. I mean, he owned that style because he brewed that during World War II.
Yeah.
When he was a kid, you know, this brewery was across the street, and he really got it right. And I think there are not a lot of people in the U.S. brewing wit beers the way they need to be brewed. They're hard to do, but having that super creamy mouthfeel, they got to be really fresh. It's got to be the right orange, the right coriander, the right yeast. I mean, it's a million ways to screw those up. So I would pick
Allagash has got to be up there, right?
Allagash is. I will drink Allagash. I think it's like I liked my own homebrew better.
All right.
But Allagash is just fine. They do a great job. I got a huge amount of respect.
Can we crash your house when we come to Chicago?
I don't have any of my own. Not brewing on many of my own beer anymore. So I miss that, but not enough to start over on home brewing.
Well, we'll hit your breweries, and then so that's two.
Yeah. Oh God.
This is Gary's question. I'm just pushing the answer.
I don't know. Let's say it's a some British barley wine brewed for the coronation of Queen Elizabeth and kept in a locked cellar.
Which Queen Elizabeth?
Yes.
First or second?
Oh, the second one, please.
Okay.
Yes. So let's do that. Let's do something that's like 75 years old or more, and that's been kept well and was really, really strong to begin with, because those are really a treat and really fun.
And then sunk in some freshwater channel and preserved.
No, I don't know about that, but there are places in England that have cellars that they've forgotten about, and knock the padlock off and find treasures, and
amazing.
People buy those. Yeah, so it's kind of crazy. But so I don't know. What am I up to now?
This is your flight. You can do a Russian River 18 flight. You can stop at 3. It's your choice.
I don't know. I'm not like I'm sort of a contrarian, and I don't really like to go by what other people like. So if a beer's like super hot, super popular,
just say Coors Light.
It's like, Coors Light. Yeah. No, it will not be a lawnmower beer. Trying to think, what else would I do? Well, again, pick another Belgian beer, like Leafman's Creek.
Oh, good choice. I was going to say
back in the day when Madame Rose and her sons were running the place. That was pretty intense and fabulous.
Now I'm thirsty. I'm down.
All right. Where can people find you online, Randy?
They can find me at randymosher.com. I wrote almost twice too much writing for the book and had to cut a lot of it out. And so I ended up with quite a bit of extra content and a lot of graphics and things. And I've been posting stuff every week or two on Facebook and Instagram and on my blogs, on my website. I've got a newsletter that I send out to let people know, like, here's the content, and you can go to the website for the rest of it. So they can patch through either to my email on that site, or they can just click a button and that'll go to me and tell me that they want to be put on that. And the book comes out on May 15th. Here's my writer's copy of it. Your Tasting Brain.
They misspelled tasting.
Huh? Oh, don't go there.
My dissertation's misspelled. At least the digital copy. Oh my!
They sent me a final PDF of the manuscript, of the printed, before printing, and I found something that I think, that they screwed up and it needed fixing, and they're like, well, I don't know that we have time. It's like, fix it.
Yeah. And for everyone listening again, the book is Your Tasting Brain, not to be confused with the zombie cookbook, Tasting Your Brain.
Tasting Your Brain, yeah.
Very different.
I've read that. That's good.
All right. Well, that'll conclude this episode of Respecting the Beer. The producer of Respecting the Beer is David Kelso. Without David, there would not be a show. Join the Facebook group to get updates and to support the show over on Patreon. As a Patreon or Pub Club member, you'll get access to exclusive content, including bonus show segments and special events hosted here at McFleshman's. Links to both of these are in the show notes. And until next time, please remember to respect the beer.